And we're live. Okay, so I was planning to, still planning to move this live stream till tomorrow. Because of some bandwidth limitations and some other things that are going on, I'm in the field. I'm actually working today at MD Wireless here in Pleasant Hill, and we've had customers coming in nonstop. So I was hoping that it would be kind of cool to do a live stream in the middle of a repair shop, but just kind of trying to get everything set up is a little tricky. So I thought at the very least I could come on here and tell everyone why I'm going to do this live stream again tomorrow, Tuesday, 2 p.m. because I hate to have something on my channel that says, hey, come over here on Monday, and then I'm not here. So here I am, and shortly I'll try to give you all a tour around the store. I actually have a phone on my desk that I'm doing right now, and if you bear with me, I'm going to set up a camera. Hey, what's up, Prackle Pickle? I'm going to set up another camera so you can kind of see what's on my desktop. At least that's the idea. So bear with me as I move some things around here, because I think what we can do is get some multiple angles. And this is an oldie. This is actually a Galaxy S5 that someone wanted to get fixed. And pretty straightforward on this one. Just took the screen off, and I'm about to install the new one. So I've removed all the adhesive. And if this works the way that I plan, you'll be able to see what's going on, which I thought would be cool. And ultimately, what I would like to do, let's see if we can switch cameras or add a camera here. Encoding overload. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Can we get another video source? And obviously nothing fancy today, everyone, because I am just not at my desk doing things the way that I normally do. Okay, so we have an iPhone 7 here. All right, so that should work, I think. Let's get this up here. And I probably should put that in airplane mode so it doesn't ring. But there you go. You can kind of... Oh, we got lag, so that's going to make it kind of tricky. Should come in a little closer here. Hey, what's up, Beha? I got something for you, man. Well, you probably recognize this, right? Okay, let me see if I can get this to go full screen. I've been kind of thinking for a while it would be cool to do some repairs on this live stream. This isn't the way I planned on doing it, but, you know, work with what we got. So right now you're really kind of seeing the behind-the-scenes stuff. I like to have this stuff prepared beforehand, but yeah, we got to do what we can here. All right, so let's go back here. Actually, you don't need that. There we go. So hopefully that looks okay on everyone else's end, and my plan here is that I'm happy to still answer any questions. I will definitely do this tomorrow again. I do need to wrap up this repair, though, because I have a customer that's waiting for it. So we can come in a little closer. And hopefully we still have audio this way. All right, so my apologies for the lighting, but I am out in the field today. So at the very least, I hope you can hear me. And, yeah, it's a dirty phone, huh? All right, so Galaxy S5, heated it up, cleaned up the old adhesive with a swab. And fortunately, our new screens, yeah, I see a little lag. Are you guys seeing like pixelation on this video? Because I think the upload speed where I'm at is just not really very good, unfortunately. It's about half of what I have at home. All right, so there's our new screen. Probably should plug it in first to make sure it works before we attach the adhesive. So I'm going to go ahead and, well, let's plug it in right here. You probably can't see that, right? Try to do it this way. And I always do this, by the way, when possible. Now, some phones are a little goofy, and you have to pretty much put them all the way together before you can test them. But whenever I can, I like to make sure my parts are working. Actually, I'm not going to worry about the home button. It's mainly the display that I'm concerned about on this one. But before we put the adhesive on, we want to make sure this sucker is going to light up. And the touchscreen will work. So I'm going to just turn this to the side real quick just in case there's any personal info on there. Sometimes customers don't like anyone to see anything, which I don't blame them. So we got a splash screen. That's working. And yeah, he's got his photos on there, so I really don't want to turn this on in front of the camera, guys, because that's obviously personal info. But we do have, there we go. So now we have a working touchscreen, and he's good to go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and power this back off. And then we will install the adhesive. It's only pixelated when I move fast. Thank you, Nate. That actually kind of sucks because I'll have to go really slow, but I'm glad that you can see. Audio and video, good. Awesome. All right, so once again, if anyone just jumped on, I really was just, I'm planning to do this again tomorrow because I know this is kind of a halfways live stream. Do you have a spudger around here? Or actually, tweezers will work. I got it. I'm actually in the store, and I'm going to show you all around. As soon as I get this S5 put back together, I'm going to try to take you around the store and show you what the inside of this place looks like. This is MD Wireless in Pleasant Hill. I worked here for quite a while back in the day. Beha remembers. So on these S5s, I love that they have pre-installed adhesive, because trying to do this stuff by hand is just time-consuming, and you never can get it exactly the way it was originally. See that little piece of lint right there? Get that out. And of course, the fact that they come, it's kind of stuck on the adhesive. The fact that they come with a pre-installed home button makes your life easier, because those home buttons are really, really sticky when it comes to removing them and trying to transfer them over to another phone. And unlike Apple, Samsung put the ID information into the phone instead of into the Touch ID, instead of into the home button, so we don't have to worry about keeping the original, which I don't know. Well, I know why they did it, but now the fun thing is, usually these will have a little tail hanging off them that makes them easier to get through the frame. This one did not, so you can always add something like a piece of tape there. I'm hoping I can get that through. Are you coming through? It's not coming through for some reason. So I'll show you a little hack that I use on occasion. Let's take the clean side of this. And I don't want this really sticking to anything just yet. Free customer phone giveaway. There we go. What's up, Harvey? I need some painter's tape or something. Alright, so if we have trouble getting that little thing fed through, I'm just going to create a little tail for it right now. And then that way we have a longer tab to kind of hold on to, if that makes sense. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to split this tape in half. It's a little too wide at the moment. I usually use like a painter's tape, but Scotch will do it too. So we'll take this and just wrap it around this little guy, which is kind of tricky to feed through the frame, especially when you have shaky hands like me. And then hopefully if I have that, if that's narrow enough, it's still going to be too thick, isn't it? Alright, you get through there. If we can get it started, you get the idea, right? You get it kind of going through. Probably have to fold it again and just kind of fold it on itself. And then that way we can just kind of pull it through and make sure that the little cable came all the way through. And why am I not seeing any movement on the screen here? Oh, because my phone timed out. Sorry about that. Alright, so I'm going to have to change this because you guys just missed everything. You see, I want to show you what I did here. And I just lost it. Why am I not seeing a feed? Yeah, the screen is frozen. Are you hearing me on that end? Let me see if I can get this working. Give me a sec. Bear with me.
That works a little better. Okay. It's still kind of low, but it looks like you gotta replace the microphone on the bottom. I'm not yet. But it works better.
Okay, let's try this again. Alright, so I think we're back. Right? Okay, sorry about that. Let's try this one more time. Actually, let's put this phone into airplane mode so it also doesn't ring while we are streaming. Alright, so at least I get to find out if my idea works. Come on, go sideways on me here, would you? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to show you that again because it didn't work the first time anyway. So let me go grab some more tape. Actually, let me grab the roller tape. So what I was trying to do, let's see. I got a question. Do you know why the HP iPack handheld Windows 6s? Do you know what the HP iPack? No, I don't think I've seen the HP iPack. Why Verizon playing ads in your live stream? I don't know. So the thing I was trying to show everyone before my camera froze is that on the Galaxy S5, when you're putting the screen back on, if the home button, if you're having trouble getting this little cable through, you can attach something to that in order to kind of feed it through the frame here, which is a little tricky. And the way that I'll do that when necessary is just grab some cellophane tape, get a thin strip, whatever is as thin as you can work with, really. And then we'll just kind of attach that. I'm going to fold it in half around this cable. Okay, so that way it's a little easier to work with, and a lot of these will come with that installed already. This one didn't for whatever reasons. So I just push the tape through, grab it from that side. Sorry about the pixelation. I know this bandwidth is a little challenging. That goes through, and that way we make sure we're plugged in at the top. We should be. When we set this down, we get our home button through the frame, and everything should be cool. Now, before I get too crazy with curing this thing, I am going to power it up again and make sure that I am connected properly, just in case. Okay, so we're good there. And now I need to get this tape off, obviously. And then we can put this bad boy back together. I love this phone. I wish we still had phones with batteries that could be removed. Yeah, I don't know why Verizon's playing. That's funny. Verizon playing ads on my live stream. I did not request that, that's for sure. Alright, so we have our little panel here that's going to go back on. And one of these days, hopefully soon, I will have a camera set up under the microscope so we can do some really cool stuff. That takes a little more work. And by the way, if anyone hears the clicking on my screwdriver, that should not happen on any phones that you work with. That's actually the screwdriver. It's got like a mechanism built into it that tells it when to stop. You seen this, Caesar? It torques it down, so your screws are automatically torqued to factory specifications. So you cannot over tighten it, basically. And you can adjust that torque if you don't want what it's set to, but they come from the factory set for like phones, basically. And there we are. So that S5 is done. What did I do with his old screen? I just gave him a black screen.
No, that's fine.
Alright, cool. So that is finished. Set this off to the side and see if we can do anything else on this live stream. Giving away all my trade secrets for free, of course. Well, that's the value of coming to my channel, right? Is that you should get something out of it. That's the idea. Alright, so let's see if we can turn that off for a second. There, we're good. Actually, this is not as bad as I thought. Hopefully it doesn't look like I'm on Kung Fu Theater again, because last time I had some issues with my camera, and it was actually causing a lot of lag. So I'm going to wait until the showroom is clear, and then I'm going to try to move around and show you guys everything. How you doing? Hey, don't mind me. I'm talking to myself. I'm doing a live stream on YouTube, so I got people here and I got customers coming in. So just so you know, there's no cameras on, just the audio over here.
Hey, I lost my iPhone. So I got some people gonna help me get an iPhone, get a phone, but trying to see if you can give me a good deal.
Talk to this gentleman right here. What do we have? One iPhone? Yeah, it's when we get iPhones in here.
Let me see what the 7 looks like.
They don't last, man. It's crazy. It's just like, well, Apple, you know.
Yeah.
That's true. It was a Verizon S5. That's kind of weird, guys. All right, let's see if I have anything. There was something I wanted to show y'all, but I need to open the browser to get to it.
I don't have anything for Metro. Sprint. Is it unlocked? Can you unlock it?
Too much money. Don't unlock it right now.
Well, just try to unlock it.
Huh?
Just try to unlock it.
There's too much money to unlock it. It's not worth it for us.
See if I can find it. Hello. Got a cracked screen? What kind of phone? Be right back.
Moto Z?
Do you guys keep these on hand? Screens for this?
No,
No.
I think we got to order it.
We have a price on it.
Actually, it's 6S.
Oh, 6S?
Yeah.
Can you,
I think this thing might be
I just need to
unlocked.
see your model number so
yes?
we can figure out
Let me check it.
what the cost is on the screen.
I thought you had the 7.
No, 6S. This it's a 5S. 5S and a 6S.
That's okay.
And both of these are Sprint?
Oh, Lenovo.
This one right now. But that one-
All right, anybody know what phone this is? Because I need to get a price on a screen. Waiting for it to start up right now so I can get the model number.
What happened to, I can't think of his name. He worked here to do with the Type 2.
They'll be here tomorrow.
Oh, okay, they will be here tomorrow.
Yeah, we're usually not here. I'm usually not in Antioch, and he's.
Nah, Harvey, there's actually a customer looking for a phone, and I'm looking at a phone right now to get a price on a screen.
He'll be here tomorrow. They just have a
Um,
till tomorrow.
So let's see. This is a Motorola Moto Z Play Droid. So let's see what we're looking at as far as parts cost goes. What do you charge for that one, Beha? Z Play Droid. We don't keep that particular part on hand because we don't see these phones come in that often. But okay, that's for a mini. Let's see, Moto Z Droid.
We're just his bodyguard.
Moto Z Droid Play.
No, he's his bodyguard. Actually,
Model numbers on the bottom of the phone or the SIM tray. Does it have a headset jack? It does have a headset jack, and you're right, it is an XT1635-01.
I can vouch for him.
XT1635-01. You know that one, Matthew? It looks like, yeah, Z Play Droid. Looks like the screen's probably about 100-ish. They got them up to about 139. 105, 139.
7 and 10.
So, and it is functional. Still turns on. Just got some cracks in there. Adam, do you have any advice out there for somebody that's planning to open up their own repair shop? Yes. If you can hold on a second, I've actually got a bunch of people in the showroom right now, so I will definitely come back to that question. Matthew, off the top of your head, have you done one of these? Because it is probably about 100-ish, I think, on the screen. I wanted to just give her a quote because obviously we'll have to order this one.
Yeah, but it's fun anyway.
Oh man, they might have laptop connection too.
I knew we were going to have everybody show up as soon as I started this. So that's what you guys are doing here, obviously, and then just 100 for the deposit, I'm guessing,
I've been done with you guys.
or so.
What's hell? Which one's the tall?
Matthew said 199 on the. Okay. Be right back again. I need to get like a temporary screen up there.
He's going down.
I want to be. I didn't want my head to shine too much like the triplets.
Oh, cool.
You didn't believe it, huh? Now you do. Exhibit A.
199 on the screen. It's all one piece, glass and LCD behind, so the whole thing has to come off and be replaced.
He's got
Okay.
his best,
Let
man.
me
And-
check on
yeah,
if
sure.
it's a new.
Yeah, weigh your options, and then if you do decide to, we have to order the part, so you come in and
Alright.
take a deposit for the cost of the part, and then you can keep the phone
So
until it
what
comes
you
in.
said is that you had a
Which
whole
phone
person
is-
somewhere.
if I just get a new phone?
You want to buy, you can buy.
Are there
Oh, the 7.
screens are commonly stocked?
that
Are there
right there?
phones and
Yes,
things that are.
anything that's made by
And what is
Apple
that?
or
That's
Samsung,
It's on
we're always going to have in stock.
Okay.
When it comes to pretty much at this point, anyone else,
much is it?
Motorola, LG, you name it, these two
believe
companies have taken over the market to the point where 85% of our customers, maybe 90, have one of those two brands.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to these, they're so
Hey,
few
tell
and
me,
far between that if we
no,
buy
I have
one
a
and we don't
laptop.
sell it for 6 months,
Yeah.
we're
need to connect
sitting
it
on the
on
shelf
the
and they
laptop.
appreciate it over time.
Yeah.
So I hate to say
No.
you should buy
You know,
Apple or
plug-
Samsung,
you know how
you should
they
have
plugs
the
are?
Charger,
you
yeah.
want, but when it comes to
Yeah,
repairs,
you should be able to get a pretty
Well, is
cheap ass price.
Samsung
Yeah.
iPhone
might
or
have
is it Android?
Samsung is
So I
Android.
went to two places.
And then
and
Yeah,
said,
I
iPhones
know.
have their own operating system, which is
No, it's 500. I know how much it costs.
Yeah.
Tell me,
Some of the terminology slowly starts to make a little sense.
It often comes down to what you're used to using. So if that's your phone and you're used to the interface, another Android is going to be a
Yeah.
smoother transition than
Samsung
trying to go.
Android.
Yeah.
Yeah, they see what kind of deal he can give.
I just like it.
"You get my glass." Everyone talks about you guys.
Cell phones.
The best.
Me too.
Thank you.
No problem.
Everyone tells me you gotta bring your key. I got two phones.
You got two phones to fix? You got them now, or you're bringing them in?
No, I don't have him in. He's doing something of his. Now I finally got over here. Lazy ass that I am.
Good. I'm glad we have a good reputation. Who sent you down?
3 stores.
Oh, okay.
Three stores.
Awesome.
DARR.
Awesome. One of the phone stores? Okay, cool.
Well, the guy who fixes iPhones, because I thought he was just to fix glass, and he said, "No, I only do iPhones." He goes, "If you want to get down, go down to Contra Costa."
Oh, okay.
What's in those boxes right there? Nothing? No, that's what I'm orange. Oh, bro, I'm little boxes right here, right?
Oh, yeah, just stuff.
I
Yeah.
go right in front of you.
Oh, these? Nah, these are boxes that we collect whenever they buy or sell a phone or whatever, and they just set it up there for kind of a display.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we couldn't put all, obviously, man, if we had these, they would be blowing out. All right, where were we? Let's see. It's not fun. Sometimes you need to glue the edges. Okay. Pay 130, 199. What was that question? If I have any advice for someone that's planning to open up their own repair shop. Yeah, I'll show you the layout in here in a minute. It really kind of depends on where you're coming from, Adam. So if you're already doing stuff on the side, you know, you're doing repairs like out of your home or by appointment or anything like that, then some of the biggest factors I've seen when it comes to choosing a location are going to be taking a look at your exposure as far as your visibility goes and your traffic. Because if you open up what we run into a lot of times is that you say, hey, I can get a really good deal on some property here as far as the lease goes. But if there's zero traffic coming to that property, then 100% of you making money is going to come down to being able to bring people into the store. And this is a challenge that people face in a lot of areas, because the high traffic areas are going to cost you more, right? You open up in a mall, there's plenty of traffic there all the time. And not that that doesn't come with its own set of challenges, but beyond that, when you get started, usually a lot of people don't have a huge amount of money to put down on a lease. And that's the other thing. You're generally going to be signing a lease for a certain period of time. You want to make sure your business succeeds. So one thing that we like to do is make sure that if a new store is opening, that it's going to be in close proximity to major carriers in that area. So to give you an example, in this store, we are probably less than a mile we're actually less than a block from the nearest AT&T dealer. And as far as the corporate stores, it's about a mile down the road. So you've got Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T corporate stores like almost within walking distance from here. And we continuously do marketing to those stores. We go out and talk to those people. And I don't know if you overheard the conversation just now, but one of the customers said he went to 3 different stores to get his phone fixed. And they all said, we only do iPhones, go to MD Wireless. So this store having a reputation for servicing a broad variety of devices, we even a lot of times have people who, you would think would be our competitors saying, well, I can't help my customers. And I give them credit for this. The best decision for them is to send their customer that they can't help to someone who can help them. And I would never hesitate to do the same thing. If there's a repair that I can't perform, I'm not going to tell someone, hey, you're out of luck, or you need to go to the manufacturer and try to get it fixed. If I can't do it and I know someone who can, and I know that if I send that customer to that service center that they'll be happy, I have no problem passing that business along to someone else. And what you really want to do when you open your store, and keep in mind that a lot of stores, they spend the first 6 months to a year building that clientele and getting that traffic in, and you're going to feel probably the financial stress of, I need to get some money coming in to pay my rent and to be profitable, unless you've got a large amount of cash just kind of sitting there fluid so that you can keep going. And you've got to get that business coming in as soon as possible. A lot of stores start out very slowly, and it's kind of a snowball effect. You take care of someone and they send you a referral and you get more people coming in. But probably the biggest challenge in opening a store is getting the traffic, and you've got to be in a location where it's going to come in and not be difficult for people to get to out of their way. Beyond that, you want to really concentrate on probably understanding liability, because things kind of change. If you go from something like hey, I'll meet you at Starbucks, or a mail-in service, or doing business out of your house, when you open a retail location and you have people walking through the doors, you have a huge increase in the liability as far as, not just the devices, but things that can happen within your store. People can get hurt, your store can get broken into, things can get dropped and broken. I've heard it all. And it's kind of a big step, and there's a big investment up front. But I think the number one thing would be really do your research up front and have a plan for how you're going to get people to come to you. Because if you look at things, advertising is difficult right now. Probably for the money, Facebook advertising is probably one of the most effective ways to drive traffic. And I'm not going to say it's cheap, but it's gonna cost you a lot less than working with something like Google AdWords, for example, which the clicks can get up to like $2, $3, $4, $5 a piece. So that means if someone clicks on that ad on Google and they don't come to your store, you just wrote off, up to $5, and you can't do that too many times, obviously, before your budget is exhausted. Now, there are other ways that you can obviously promote yourself on social media, and this is a big one. And I think, nowadays everyone's pretty much aware of this. If you don't have a significant social media presence, you're missing out on a big crowd, because a lot of people, everyone is on Facebook and Twitter or Instagram or something else like that. So you definitely want to have a presence there and post regularly. That's one of the things that a lot of algorithms, whether it's Google or Facebook or any other type of social media platform, they tend to look for regularity. And this is one of my objectives here on YouTube, is to publish regularly, because that actually helps my channel. And for whatever reasons, you can publish a great video or a mediocre video, but as long as you stay consistent, it's going to help you as far as search engines go for finding things to send people to. So hopefully that helps. That's probably one of the main concerns I think that most people would want to know getting into opening a store. Also, take a look at the overhead. It may look good from the outside, but obviously when you open a business, there are a lot of unseen costs behind the counter. You've got your rent, your utilities, you have this triple net thing that they add on to the lease that you have for your building. Obviously, you have payroll, you have all sorts of weird taxes. If you're in California, you have several, at least 2 different licenses that you need to pay for in order to do business. And, when we look at anything, and this is true in any industry, gross sales don't mean a whole lot, because once you factor in the amount of taxes that you're paying out, and deduct your expenses from what you would be making, $75 repair obviously doesn't make you $75. In fact, in most cases, it's, people are probably making something that at that rate, probably making $35. And that's before they pay their rent, and they pay their employees, and they pay for maintenance and cleaning and all sorts of stuff like that. So that would be my first concern. Adam, what area are you in? If you're still with us, I'm curious, because, every market's a little different. And one thing that I've found out, and this is kind of thanks to Beha also, and a couple other people that I had trained for phone repair, is that sometimes the big cities with the large population areas are not the best place to be. In fact, if you talk to anyone in particular from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, everyone that I hear from down there says, do not open a store here. Like, the competition is on every block. And the same is true of Las Vegas, and then there are areas in Southern California where you're up against the same thing. But if you find, and I probably said this before, so if you've already heard me talk about it, it's just because a lot of people ask this question, it comes up a lot. If you find an area with a somewhat limited population, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, and you can be the only repair store, maybe not even just in that town, but within a pretty decent sized radius, like 15-20 mile radius. There are a lot of smaller towns where people still kind of look at going into the big city as a trip that they do once every other week or once a month. And for the most part, they like to do business locally, which is great. And they also don't like have to travel to get things done. So a lot of times they'll come to you if you're the only one on the block. And, if you're doing a decent job, you can find these little towns here and there that need someone to do phone repair, and there's not really any competition. So that would, you're in Chicago. So let's see. Actually near the Indiana border. So I'm assuming the population is pretty dense there, and that would make me want to be very thorough in investigating what type of competition you would be up against in any given area. So my first concern would be this: are you close to wireless carriers so that they can refer business to you? And if so, are they already kind of locked in with someone else? Because this is something that you can run into as well. If someone's actually doing their job and they are marketing and they're doing good work and they're good friends with all the phone dealers in the area, it's going to be tough to get customers away from them. I've walked into a few places where they said, well, we've been sending people to this other guy, but we haven't seen him for at least a month. And those were the stores that were very receptive to me showing up to do marketing and say, hey, well, if you want to give us a shot, here's where we are, here's what we do, here's the benefits of doing business with us, we want to help you out. And then I've had other stores that say, yeah, well, we kind of got a guy, but leave me some cards. And I kind of knew what to expect from that. So that's definitely a factor also. I would actually be the only repair shop to have T-Mobile, AT&T, and Metro within a 1 mile radius. And if that's the case, I think that as long as you're doing work and your customers are happy, it's going to be hard to lose, that knowing nothing else about the area. One thing to keep in mind about Metro PCS specifically is that they are often going to have devices that are going to be difficult for you to profit from. So if you definitely want to be able to offer other things besides the repair service, and this is what anyone that's been doing phone repair for any period of time will tell you in a store, is that you don't want to just rely on repairs, and you don't just want to rely on repairing phones for the long term. So we definitely want to allow people to have access to other things that they need while they're in the store. So whether that's going to be accessories or prepaid services or prepaid phone cards or anything else that you can think of that makes sense. You don't want the inside of your store to look like a Moroccan bazaar. I've gone into a store before where they had like a Slurpee machine and a coat rack, and you're just like, what is this? But if I go into a store and I want to get my phone repaired and they have a case for my phone, or they have a screen protector for my phone, or any other number of options where there's actually a pretty decent markup, you can actually make some money profit-wise on that with little to no risk. You put a screen protector on a phone, it's highly unlikely you're going to damage that person's phone. Where was I? There was something else as far as prepaid services also. We have a few dealers that we've done business with before, like Simple Mobile, H2O, that kind of thing. And those worked out well for a while. And I think recently people have kind of opted for other carriers for different reasons. But Metro, the other thing is that, excuse me, I want to wipe this camera off real quick. It seems like it's a little foggy to me. Is that any better? Metro in particular is going to have a lot of devices that are designed to be inexpensive. So that equals difficult to do any work on and make a profit, because a lot of times what you would have to charge to do the repair is going to exceed the value of the device. And a lot of people don't want to go for that, obviously. So that's something to keep in mind as far as Metro goes. It's just kind of the nature of the beast there. And same would probably be true in many cases with Cricket. There are some other companies out there that do kind of a Metro thing too, right? I'm trying to think of who else off the top of my head. Ultra Mobile. A lot of resellers of brand name carriers, though. I'm trying to think, like a lot of the Sprint the Sprint resellers do the same thing. Boost Mobile, a lot of those phones, it's going to be really tough to do much repairs on. But if you have AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile, that's probably going to get you a lot of people. And also, remember, if you can fix a phone, I'm convinced, if you can fix a phone, you can fix a tablet, and you can fix a computer, and you can probably work on some MacBooks too. So, always keep in mind that there are other things where your skill set will be applicable, and probably with very little training. And this is one of the things I talked about, in some other videos, and that is we have to look at the future. And not really knowing what Apple or Samsung or anyone else is going to do as far as the design of their devices, we have to have something to fall back on. So we should probably be fixing computers and fixing tablets and maybe fixing drones, or whatever the next thing is going to be. Which, by the way, I was talking to someone. Hold on one second. I was talking to someone recently about the future. Start a phone repair business. Yes, only phones. Well, hey man, if you can do only phones, Polo Lee, that's awesome. Just for consider that in the future there may be a lot of other opportunities for you, and there may be some phones that come out that we don't want to or aren't able to fix for some reason. We just really never know what's going to happen. In fact, I had an interesting conversation earlier with a guy who said that he's got this Galaxy S8. And he asked about why it costs so much to repair, and I told him about the curved screen. And I don't think I've come across maybe one person out of 20 who's excited about having the curved on the edge of their screen, around here where the way that the Galaxies do. And the interesting thing about that is, Samsung is always trying to figure out a way to beat Apple, and that was their big thing, is we're going to have a screen that wraps around the edge of the phone. And that seems to have not caused a lot of excitement, but what it did is it complicated the refurbishment process for that display, which drives up the cost of replacing the screen for the customer. Not only that, think about this. There is a certain, and it makes it difficult to put a screen protector on the phone, right? Well, in addition to that, the manufacturing process ends up with a certain percentage of displays that don't work. So right off the factory assembly line at Samsung, they have a certain percentage of those curved edge series screens that just don't work. They can't be used. They're not going to go onto phones. So where do you think that the cost of those screens that probably go in the trash, or maybe they strip, whatever they can use off of them or redo them or whatever, where does that cost go? Well, obviously that trickles down to the customers that actually buys the phones with the working screen. So that increases the cost of your phone because they came up with this idea that they thought people were going to be excited about, which again, I have a very small sample really to speak of here, but most of the people I talk to don't get excited about the curved edge on the Galaxy screen, and yet they are paying more for that phone because of that feature. So it's a weird thing. It's kind of frustrating really, because I really want Samsung to do better, and you see, I'm still using my iPhone. This question goes to the guy that only repairs iPhones, and I'm interested to hear the answer also. Have you got a fix for the Apple 7 home button repair problem? I guess I could just put the chat in here in case anyone else wants to see it. So give me a second and I'll set this up while you guys are doing that. I need my chat address. Let's see. Where's my chat? Here we go. Chat properties. Let's see if this works. Let's see if I can get chat here. There we go. All right. Folks, I'm sorry I'm looking amateur today, but that's how it is because I'm actually in a store. There we go. All right, so can we see that? Polo Lee, that question's for you. Is the showroom empty right now? Okay. I was going to try to walk around with this, and I think I'm going to have to switch my audio. Maybe I can take this mic with me. This is going to be pretty awkward, but let's see if we can make it happen. So pull the plug here. I can't believe I was about to do this and like 3 people walked in. Is there anyone up front?
No.
Somebody just left their coffee there? Okay. All right, I'm going to try to show you a little bit of this store and hopefully carry this microphone with me. I'm plugged into, let's unplug that. See what a mess I'm making here, folks? I knew this was going to happen. All right, so hopefully you can hear me. I'm going to have to kind of walk through the store backwards so I can see my monitor. Let's go from the front here. So this is the view out. I know there's a lot of glare because that's the storefront over there. And I'm going to go out to the front here. Behind me, we have a bunch of accessories. I'll give you a wider angle here in just a second. Over here, we have somebody's Starbucks cup that they left. See that? All this time I thought someone was in the store because there's a cup sitting on the counter. So if you come to MD Wireless in Pleasant Hill, here's what you see. On one side, we have accessories coming down here. Hopefully you can still hear me. We've got accessories on this side. We've got accessories over here on this side, and then right down the center as you come in, here's the counter. So this will be the customer reception area where we have a computer set up. We have a tech area right behind that shelf. We have a tech right behind that stack of iPhones right there. And then over here, we've got some cases. This is pretty awkward because it's kind of behind me, so I don't know how that's going to work. Let's see, can we set that down there? All right, so over there you have one counter. So we put, is that picking up my sound? Yeah, I guess it is. So over here we got some chargers. We got phones for sale. We have, we still have these. That's so funny. That one's locked. We have those little cellular things you put on the back of your phone to keep you from getting cancer. I don't know if it works, but they do sell on occasion. Over here we got some more accessories in the case. So these glass cases are pretty nice, and what was pretty cool is that, I shouldn't say cool, but one of the things, I want to go outside, but it's going to be really awkward with this computer, so that's going to be tough. But one of the things that happened as a result of the recession, if you remember back in about 2008, is that a lot of stores closed down. So if you find an area where people are going out of business, and I hate to benefit from someone else's misfortune, but you may come across stuff like this. You see these things behind me? If you buy those new, they're not cheap, these things that hang on the wall. But if you find someone who's closing down a store, they usually just want to clear the stuff out. So there were quite a few apparently that went out of business a while back. And if you look at an area where something's going out, a lot of times they just want to get the stuff out of the store. I mean, you'll get it for next to nothing. So there's some more advice. If you're opening, for the guy who is opening a store, Adam, take a look around and see if there's anything going out of business there. And you might be able to pick up some fixtures, shelves, slot wall, pegboards, that kind of stuff. Even maybe a workbench, if you look around. A lot of times you run into that kind of stuff. And the phone keeps ringing. All right. Let's see. Mike, have you heard of any fix for that? iPhone 7 home button repair problem as far as... So you repaired the screen and now the home button's not functioning, or are you getting the error message on the screen? Is that what happened? Because yes, I have heard of it. Yes, there is a possible solution. There's actually a way that you can remove and replace the turtle IC that's built into the flex cable if that's what got damaged. Now, if you tore the flex cable, I think you're out of luck as far as I know. And, obviously if you're not set up to do either of these repairs, sending the customer to Apple is usually the best option. My understanding is that Apple will still help out the customer. They won't turn them away just because they had their screen repaired, but you can always put the broken screen back on. And supposedly they'll take care of that for you. But there is actually a video, and I'll try to find the link and put it in the description after this is finished. But there's a fairly primitive looking tool. If you're doing micro soldering, there's a fairly primitive looking tool where I want to say they actually used hot air and hold the turtle IC, which is the chip that's on the back of the home, or the flex cable for the home button. And when that cable has too much stress on it, the chip just kind of breaks off, kind of like the touch ID or the touch disease problem on the iPhone 6 Plus. And when that happens, you can actually remove the chip and replace it. And they did it using, it wasn't hot air, it was actually an old school soldering iron. So if you've ever seen those old soldering irons that have the little white filament in the center of them, they take off the end of the soldering iron and they insert that filament into this little chamber where the IC is sitting on, and you can actually remount that turtle IC or a replacement turtle IC on there to get it to work. I have not done it myself. There's probably a video out there. If you look up, if you look on YouTube for turtle IC replacement, I think Glon, Glon, might be the guy that does it. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure someone has done it. But yeah, it's a pretty complicated. Going from screen repair, it's not going to be an easy one. If you can send the customer to Apple, unfortunately, that's probably going to be the fastest and easiest way to deal with it. And I always, make that a last resort, obviously, because every time we send a customer to Apple, even if Apple did something silly that made it impossible for us to help the customer, it makes it look like we don't know what we're doing and Apple does, which, I would argue, if we're talking about technicians on site, that is absolutely not true. And you'll know that if you ever talk to a genius or anyone who works at Apple, for the most part, unless they have some prior training. They're not going to do much besides replace batteries and screens, but they do have that special machine that allows them to match up the new Touch ID, or I'm sure the new facial recognition, to a motherboard, which is the one thing that we don't have, and which is the one thing that hopefully the right to repair movement will eventually make some ground on. But I'm not really crossing my fingers on that one. I had some questions on my channel I'm going to pull up here. So again, thanks everyone for bearing with me. It's a little tricky here because I'm in the store, but I wanted to go to my channel and show you some of the questions that I actually held in order to respond to today. So let me get into my comments and take a screenshot, because that's probably the easiest way to make this happen. And let's see, held for review. Here's what we want. Okay, I already answered that. Okay, so let me take this screenshot and see if we can put this on. Is that one? I swear I'm usually much more prepared for this, but today got a lot going on. Okay, so we'll call that comments. Come on. I'm still trying to learn how to use a Apple computer. All right, so let's add image. And that is going to be desktop. I know this is the most amateur live stream ever. Okay. All right, so let's see if we can resize this so that it will actually... I got to tell you, this software is pretty cool. I can do quite a bit with it. I am still an amateur, but I'm really impressed by what you're able to do with this thing. So we need to shrink that down a bit. Oh, and you can trim it, which is awesome. Go up to there, and then we'll just go a little smaller. All right, almost there. And you need to know what it is in reference to. Okay, there we go. So close enough. All right, so some questions that I wanted to answer. I need to change my front camera, and this is in reference to check this out. This is a Samsung Stratosphere. So this phone has not been around for, well, this phone was released probably in, I don't know, 2011, 2010, something like that. Remember the old slider, the Samsung Stratosphere? I need to change my front camera, I think. When I install a new camera app, the phone will take pictures with the rear camera. When I switch the camera to the front camera, I get a camera error, and all I get is a message, can't connect to the camera, and I have no way of switching to the rear camera, so obviously it's getting stuck on the front camera, probably because of the error, other than reinstalling the app. So it looks like my phone is older than the one you are repairing. Wow, so I've got a Stratosphere, maybe I've got a Stratosphere 2 on that video. Breaking down, will I need to remove as many things as you did to get to the front camera? And without knowing exactly what model this person is talking about, I'm going to say almost definitely yes. One of the things about slider phones having a front-facing camera is that you do have to go through the back, which is the second layer. Like there's two separate layers that move independently, and you are... do we have a Stratosphere here? This way I could show everyone. Hold on, let me see if we have one of these around here. They're probably gone by now. Any Samsung slider will do. No.
Maybe over here.
Do we have any slider phones? All right. Well,
there in the buckets.
oh, over here? Oh, look at this. Here we go. Oh, we should do old phone days here. None of them are sliders, really? Aha. All right, so I found one. and this is crazy. So for any of you who are fortunate enough not to have worked on any of these, back in the day, we get a lot of phones that had this little sliding mechanism because they had a slide out keyboard or whatever. And one of the challenging things about these phones is that everything, when it's the display that breaks, which it usually is, you've got to go through the back of the phone, all the way from the back to the front, just kind of like an iPhone 4 like they did with the screen. You have to start from the back. So you have several layers here. You have an outer layer here that's attached to an inner layer there. That's all got to come apart to get to the sliding mechanism inside, where these screws, you can see there's some screws in this panel. Well, half of those screws are hidden because they're behind the display, which is behind that first layer. So anytime we did a slider phone, and yes, if it's for a front-facing camera, to answer that person's question, we have to go through the back and completely disassemble that thing to get to the camera. And we don't know for sure that the camera is the problem, but from what he described, that if he's already reinstalled the software and hard reset the phone, that would probably be the next place to check. There could be a communication error between the front panel of the phone and the back just for the camera. I mean, that's possible too. There's a thin cable that connects these two layers together, and over time, as you can imagine, you get any dust or sand or anything inside there, and it's just rubbing back and forth. Eventually those things grind down, and we used to have to replace these all the time. When's the last time anyone did a slider phone? I'm really curious to know that one. So that's what I would recommend. Yeah, you're probably gonna have to replace the front camera in the front half of the phone, which is a bummer. Can I use an iPhone 6s Wi-Fi antenna on an iPhone 6? No. Anyone have ideas on what could be the problem if you do this exactly as the video states, but the phone still won't charge? Galaxy Note 3, could it be the battery? Yes, and unless there's physical damage to your charge port that you can see from the outside, I would always start with trying the battery first. I mean, how much would it suck to take the whole phone apart, replace the charge port, and figure out that the battery was the problem? So that, on that particular phone, the Galaxy Note 3, do we have any swollen batteries here? I thought I saw one earlier, right?
It's usually in the front.
For a lot of you, you've already seen this a lot of times, probably, but when batteries are healthy, they'll be nice and flat, and when they're not, they will expand and often break right through the back panel on the phone. So I'm going to see if I have one of those handy. Oh, I got a big bucket of batteries right there. So here's one that's about to explode. Everybody's always worried about iPhone batteries being dangerous. Well, they're dangerous because they're sealed. And this is every battery, not just iPhones, but you see how swollen that is? This should be nice and flat. They start to expand over time. And if your battery is swollen at all, then that's an indication that it's not going to hold a charge. But I would assume that it's not charging at all if they went as far as replacing the charge port, because an old battery won't hold a charge for very long. A bad battery may not charge, or a bad charging port won't charge a battery at all. So yeah, I definitely try the battery first. But if that doesn't work, you could have a bad charge port, or you could have something else wrong. Sometimes we get phones where there's another mechanism that allows the phone to charge that is the problem. Definitely check your block too. I can't tell you how many times people have come in thinking that they had a bad battery, and they tried 5 or 6 different cables, but their charging block was the problem the whole time. So we definitely want to eliminate those factors before we dig too deep on that. What about the adhesive beneath the screen? And this is in reference to a Galaxy S5. The adhesive beneath the screen, do you have to replace it somehow? You just snapped it back without mentioning it, or I just didn't pay attention? And I've had this question before, and this is a funny thing. I wish I still had that S5 open. On the Galaxy S5, we have the adhesive that goes around the perimeter of the screen, but you've also got some thin little strips here, kind of in the shape of an L, that go down the side. And that is a different type of adhesive. It's not just a plain adhesive. It's a special kind of, I believe it's a copperish or some sort of conductive tape that goes behind the screen. And the short answer to that would be, I would like to replace those, but I don't have the same material that Samsung does. So if the screen has only been removed one time, I don't, usually you'll have enough of the adhesive property remaining on that piece of tape that you shouldn't have to replace it. And I don't like to replace those. Also, if they get wrinkled underneath, what happens, and one of the reasons I don't like to add adhesive to those, not so much on the S5, but anything after the S6, basically, is that the smallest amount of pressure behind that screen can cause it to become damaged over time, because it's constantly pushing up there. And these AMOLEDs that Samsung makes are becoming thinner and more fragile all the time. So you really don't want to add any extra thickness behind the screen. And on the S5, you know, if the adhesive was completely gone, like it didn't stick at all, we do want to have something on the inside there. I would venture to say that it's probably safer to add some adhesive in between the areas where the existing adhesive is, instead of stacking it on top of the stuff that's already in there. And if anyone has advice or disagrees with me on that, I'm curious to hear your answer. You know, is it really a good idea to add extra adhesive onto that little L-shaped thing behind the screen? Are you better off to leave it as is, or would you fill in the gaps somewhere else? Because I think that's going to be the least, you know, the smallest amount of liability to causing problems with that screen later on, is just to not add any thickness, like stacking something right on top of that. So that would be my preferred method, and I haven't had any problems with that so far. Let's see, what is the name of the black wire? What is the name of the black wire that's attached to gold flat metal piece that's near the battery release bracket? I don't even understand. Okay, let me read that again. This is a Galaxy S5 home button replacement. I broke this cord and trying to replace a battery. It sounds a lot like you're talking about the antenna wire, and if that's the case, you will have to buy a new charge port for your iPhone 5S, because the antenna wire is connected on there in a way that most people are not going to be able to remove, and it's just a lot easier. Unfortunately, you will have to replace the charge port, which is a little more work than the home button, but as long as you didn't damage the home button or the home button cable itself, you should be able to keep your Touch ID functionality, which is what most people are concerned with when it comes to the 5S. Okay, so for this last comment here, it was on here 11 months ago, and then someone had the same issue, and what he was talking about is the antenna connector on the logic board of an iPhone 6. When you go to replace the Wi-Fi antenna, those little connectors on the board are very fragile, and it's easy to break them off. So can it be fixed? Yes. I'm actually going to do a video on that one. The bad news is it's not going to be an easy repair. You're going to have to use some hot air and be able to desolder that connector and have a donor to pull another connector off of to move onto that board. So yes, they can be replaced, but it's not an easy thing to do. And I hate that they're so fragile. Most of the time when you remove the Wi-Fi connector from an iPhone 6, you'll break the connector on the antenna. But if you break the one on the board, that's a little more work to get that going again. So I feel bad for you, but I can't overemphasize how fragile those silly things are. And that kind of explains why we tend to see so many problems with iPhone 6 Wi-Fi antennas lately, among other things. They're just, I guess, getting old and brittle. So are y'all still with me? Because I haven't seen any comments coming in. I want to make sure I'm not talking to myself here. Let's see what's going on here. You know, I guess I can actually make moderators on here too. That's kind of cool. Huh. All right, let's see. Did everybody go home? It is after 3, so I went a little extra, but I want to make sure that my chat still works. My chat still works. I think everybody's gone, so that's probably a safe time. Or anyone who's logged in actually is not with us, and this was scheduled to go till 3 o'clock, so hopefully I've answered everyone's questions. I will come back tomorrow at 2 p.m. and do another one of these, but I'll do it from home with a little more preparation, and I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for everyone who came by. And I am going to leave the stream open for just a couple more minutes in case anyone has any questions, and then I'm going to log out and get back to work. So how do I get to my live stream here? Offline. It says offline. I've been offline all this time. That's why nobody's talking to me. Is that right? No, it's live. Okay. So only 6 viewers. Hey, thanks for everyone who's not logged in and is watching. Thanks for coming by. I'm going to end the stream. I'll be back tomorrow with another live stream, which will be a little more organized. And then again on Thursday evening, because a lot of people can't make this because of work, which I understand. And hopefully I'll have some more DIY stuff, some do-it-yourself things that we can publish in between now and then, and 10 Minutes of Tech, which is my new thing. I'm trying to do kind of just recent events in the wireless arena within the last few days, and having a lot of fun with that. And it's only 10 minutes because I know a lot of people can't hang out for an hour. But once again, thank you very much for joining. I will see you next time.